Gaddafi forces have been known to bypass the front line and encircle rebel troops. Soldiers keep a keen eye on the terrain.
But rebel soldiers don't seem to even know where the front line is.
Libyan revolutionaries testing their weapons and heading to the front.
We have just one thing to say to Gaddafi, our terrorist Gaddafi. We are coming up. We are coming up.
For weeks now, Gaddafi forces and revolutionary troops have been trading attacks and counterattacks in the north of the country. Revolutionary troops are full of enthusiasm, however few are trained to fight. They are poorly equipped and badly organized.
We're now trying to go to the front line. We keep asking rebel soldiers at checkpoints and on the side of the road, where is the front line? And we keep getting different answers. Some people say Ras Lanuf is the front line. Some people say Ajdabia. It's that unorganized that rebel soldiers don't seem to even know where the front line is.
This soldier tells me that the front line is in Bin Jawad. At the next checkpoint, we are told that the fighting is 100 kilometers closer in the town of Ras Lanuf. Along the road, evidence of NATO bombing litters what the rebels now call the Road of Death. We make it as far as Brega. This is the last checkpoint before the front line.
Where are you going?
We're machine. Deep inside.
Are you actually killing any Gaddafi troops?
قتلتوا أي حد من الكتائب تاعه.
لا لا شاهد رجل جراد اللي يضرب فينا برجمات.
Gaddafi's forces are said to number in the thousands, vastly outnumbering trained revolutionary soldiers. They are well equipped with heavy artillery and tanks. Many units are also highly trained. When NATO stops bombing, Gaddafi forces are able to advance with ease.
The rockets
في دبابات في جراد
are pushing us to leave. We cannot resist. They're saying we could go to Tripoli in 2-3 days if we have an air force cover.
Civilians flee the front line and ambulances take the injured away.
We've been here for only about half an hour and suddenly we've been told we have to evacuate. Gaddafi's forces are bombing only around 10 kilometers from here. We've seen ambulances stream by, one full of journalists. A journalist has been hurt. We've got to get out of here quite quickly.
And with that, the revolutionaries retreat. Their machine guns and enthusiasm are no match for Gaddafi's artillery. The fighting on the front line has now become a stalemate, as the superiority of Gaddafi's forces are cancelled out by NATO airstrikes, which stops them advancing too far to the east. I asked Mr. Gariani, a spokesman for the revolutionary TNC, or Transitional National Council, how he expects to win the war.
We are working with the friendly nations. We hopefully, I can't tell you that that's something for the military to discuss. However, we're going to start selling our oil. We're going to have some cash flow. So we are going to take care of this tyrant sooner or later. We have the people on our sides, and those people lived through this tyrant's rule for 42 years, and they want it no more. So it's going to take time. Is it difficult? Yes.
Despite his defiant words, the revolutionaries are becoming more and more reliant on NATO. However, these strikes are starting to come at a cost. In a hospital, we find many civilians and rebels injured by Gaddafi troops. However, there is now a new danger. This is Hussein Khalifa. His niece was killed last night. He shows me footage of what he says is a truck used by Gaddafi forces full of rockets. He says it was hit by a NATO bombing raid. The rockets exploded, damaging nearby houses. 7 people were killed and 25 were injured. The story was confirmed by hospital staff.
The NATO has attacked properly their target, but what has happened that one of the cars, big vehicles, which was carrying the ammunition, was exploded in the area.
Would you call this collateral damage?
This is a collateral damage. This is what can I say? This is a very small and very minimal collateral damage.
This tragedy happened in mid-March. Press TV broke the story, however it received little coverage elsewhere. That was about to change though, as 2 days later NATO misfired again, killing 13 people. Revolutionary soldiers and an ambulance crew. And the following week, headline news as NATO targeted a group of revolutionary tanks heading to the front line. People in the east still support NATO airstrikes. It's difficult to see how these badly trained and badly equipped revolutionary soldiers could hold their ground without them. However, people are starting to wonder just how NATO could make so many mistakes. A member of the National Transitional Council discusses events with people in Benghazi's main square. I put to him a widely believed notion that NATO don't have the Libyan people's best interests at heart.
This is their point of view too. They think as NATO taking
advantage. When this war is over, inshallah, what do you think NATO will want from the Libyan people?
They need the money back. They need whatever they spend, because everything they do with it now, they want to get paid for it. Every rocket is cost 1,200,000 something. The more they stay, the more rockets they send, is the more money they'll ask for.
So you think they want oil?
Exactly.
Oil. There's more proven deposits in Libya than in any other African country, and much of the terrain remains unexplored. This is the headquarters of the largest oil company in Libya. It's also the largest company in any sector. Its headquarters in the revolutionary stronghold of Benghazi is the size of a small town.
The income of the economy in Libya is the oil represents 90% or more than 95% of the income in Libya from oil, because we don't export anything except the oil. So it's very important for the East and the West, for Libya in general.
Over 80% of oil in Libya is produced in the east of the country, the area controlled by the revolutionaries. However, because of the fighting, production has stopped. Many of the oil towns in Libya, like Ras Lanuf, Brega, and where we are now in Zwitina, are very close to the front line. You can see this oil installation behind me has been damaged in the fighting and is out of action now. This local resident tells me that after a battle nearby, Gaddafi's troops came and attacked the refinery. They've also attacked a storage facility in the south of the country, in the town of Mesla, in what appears to be a strategic assault to halt the East's production of oil, and therefore to seriously damage their access to revenue. The plan succeeded. This man tells me he used to work the oil fields in Mesla, but fled with most other workers after the attacks. To bring in money, the revolutionaries are working hard to get oil production going again, and other countries are only too glad to help. Qatar, the Arab country most supportive politically of the revolutionaries, has already won contracts to market their oil. And they're not the only country likely to benefit from goodwill. I asked whether his company would be giving preferential oil contracts to countries that have been helping the revolutionaries.
Of course, for example, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of many Libyans, it will UK, Britain and France, United States, of course it will be in a good position in the future.
Do you think NATO will get their money back?
Yeah, their public who ask many things about the war. Nobody wants the war, of course. But the cost of this war, I think it will be paid by Libyan, you know.
This conflict is supposed to be about the people of Libya. However, for all parties, there is another factor central to their thinking. There are reports almost every day of the revolutionaries receiving arms and training from various foreign players. However, NATO countries have still refused to arm the opposition. They have also come under criticism from people in the east for not bombing enough to protect civilians, especially in the west of the country. This is Dr. Mansour, general surgeon at Benghazi's main hospital. I ask him why NATO isn't arming the rebels.
Obviously, they want to know who are they dealing with. They want to know who's leading this group, who is the man. They want to make sure that there are no Qaeda people and no, ultra-Islamists. They want to know, and then under the table, they want to know what's in it for us, obviously. So all these points, and they also want to show the Libyans that without us, without NATO, you're not really very good. And Gaddafi could ruin you again and could rule you again. So possibly these are the reasons for their hesitance in the last 4 or 5 days.
Is this a humanitarian intervention?
On the face of it, it is humanitarian. And it's always the two factors, the human factor and the other factor.
What's the other factor?
The human factor is obvious, of course, defending people, defending women, defending children. And the other factor, of course, is economical. I mean, what's in it for us? I mean, obviously these countries who are involved would want to know that how are you going to let our companies come in? Who's going to rebuild this country? Who's going to rebuild all these refineries that have been ruined? And so on.